知道什么是信访制度吗？信访制度就是上访。
A random sampling of Beijing residents found little understanding of China's petition system. This man believes that petitioning is not allowed. He says if you try it, you'll be arrested.
I think people, first of all, people who are the well-placed, the people with connections, people with a lot of social capital, probably do not care much about this group of people. And the average people who can relate to those group of people probably have a lot of sympathy, understanding of them. So there's a lot of misunderstanding because the Chinese mass media and the portrayal of petitioners normally is not accurate. So there's kind of a wrong portrayal of this group of people as crazy, as someone, against something for purely personal gains. That may be true to some of the petitioners, but generally speaking, it's not a good, accurate presentation of this group of people. This is a group of people who really suffer at the hands of the powerful, suffer at the hands of the wealthy, and they are asking their basics, right? They are not asking for something that they should not ask in the first place. They're asking something legally, legitimately belong to them. They need to be understood. They need to have the sympathy of the society. I personally believe they are a positive force for China's progress. Only they can tell the truth because they know the truth, because they suffer in the hands of injustice, and they can tell firsthand compelling stories how the system is not working. Right? So if we give them the chance to tell their stories, if we can pay attention to their grievances, I think the Chinese system, the legal system can be cleaned up, and that's their contribution to the social progress in the country. Not treating them as the marginal, the abnormal, the crazy. I mean, anything treating that will just create more problems. They will not go away because they have nothing to lose but their lives.
This woman says she's been petitioning since she lost her life savings more than 6 years ago in a business deal gone bad. She says her efforts so far have been futile. Now, she says, her family members have lost their joy, as well as their place to live.
It is a broad group of people. It isn't solely rural residents. You also are seeing a wide range of urban folks who are engaged in petitioning too.
The powerless class, people who really do not have the means, do not have the connections in the Chinese sense to get the justice done on their behalf.
So really there is a spectrum, but I would say that generally what you're ending up with is poor people, often rural, as well as migrant workers in urban areas. I can name some of the major issue areas that give rise to petitioning. Land seizures, that's been a particularly big issue. Rural taxation, particularly in the late 1990s, allegations about local authorities illegally levying fees that they shouldn't have. Corruption of local authorities, abuse by local police or local officials. All of those kind of feed into the system. If you're a Chinese citizen who's sort of confronting a particular problem in your locality, say, you're unhappy with corruption in your area, or perhaps you're concerned because your land's been seized and you sort of feel that you haven't received fair compensation. You might have a series of different choices as to how you might try to go about resolving your problem. You might think about possibly going through the formal mechanisms that exist within your particular jurisdiction. You might try to use the court system. You might try to bring your problems to the local People's Congress. The problem with using many of those other channels is precisely because of the nature of the way the party system works in China. Political power is fused in the hands of a very few individuals. So if your grievance, for example, is related to actions that are directly taken by the mayor of your city, you may have trouble actually obtaining redress for any of your grievances because the particular things that you seek to challenge are the result of actions that local political structure is very tightly linked to. As a result, you may start thinking, well, what other options do I have? They may think, what I'd like to try to do is to try to jump. I'd like to try to go find someone who outranks this local political system, sort of the local power structure. And you might try to sort of jump up to the provincial level, thinking that if I can bring my grievance, if I can submit my grievance to the provincial governor, the provincial party secretary, or perhaps even if I can show up in Beijing, that higher level individual might be able to outrank the mayor of my county who is causing me problems, and he might intervene. That higher level authority might intervene in my grievance and be able to help me out.
This 70-year-old petitioner is from Jilin province in China's northeast. After years of petitioning, she is reduced to sleeping on the street outside the Supreme Court in Beijing. She scavenges for food from a nearby shopping mall food court.
The Chinese government has done a tremendous amount of work in setting up the legal infrastructure. If you go through any city, if you go to any place, you will see that they have the very brand new buildings for courts, for appeals, for petition. All of them are in place, but the offices are held by people, and people have their weaknesses, especially in a system where there's lack of independent supervision, there's a lack of accountability, so it creates a lot of chances for corruption. Incompetent, corrupted grassroots judges and officials, they are really creating a lot of petitioners, and they really have done damage to the Chinese legal system, and really made a lot of black lights on the entire Chinese legal system.